Hi everyone, Small here, back again with another Arknights operator review. After a few underwhelming releases, Arknights has finally bounced back with an absolute monster of a unit. Pun absolutely intended. You already know who I'm talking about. After years of being Calcit's loyal pet, Mon3tr is now stepping out of the shadow and into the spotlight as a full-fledged operator. And today we are diving headfirst into what makes her so damn good. Now, turning Mon3tr into a cute girl definitely stirred the pot. On one side, you've got the lore purists, calling this a marketing stunt to reel in a certain crowd. On the other, folks who are already spoiling their new favorite daughter. And look, I don't know where you stand, but one thing is crystal clear. The artists have definitely picked their side. But Mon3tr isn't just an adorable cat girl with a pretty face. Her kit is cracked. We are talking top tier healing, absurd AoE buffs and devastating true damage. She can do it all: support, heal, nuke and even soak up damage like a tank. She's got the whole package. And it's not just raw power either. Her gameplay is packed with cool, innovative mechanics that will satisfy both hardcore meta chasers and players who love cooking up weird offbeat strats. Alright, enough hype, let's break it down and see what makes Mon3tr one of the most impactful operators we've had in a long time. Let's start with the archetype. Mon3tr belongs to the Chain Medic branch, first introduced back in 2022 with a pretty forgettable 5-star, Paprika, and later expanded with another forgettable 5-star, Papyrus. That's not a lot of representation, which kind of hints that this archetype wasn't in the best place, and Hyperglyph probably needed time to figure out how to make it actually work. That's why it's important to understand how chain medics function, so we can appreciate the clever ways Mon3tr fixes their biggest issues. So what makes chain medics special? As the name implies, their heals bounce. Specifically, their heals can jump between nearby allies up to a maximum of 3 targets. For every bounce though, the healing amount drops off by 25% multiplicatively. So the first target gets full healing, the second gets 75% and the third gets 75% of that 75%, and so on if more bounces are available. There are two things to keep in mind here. First, bounces can only go to allies within the 8 tiles surrounding the last healed unit. And second, all the healing happens instantly, no delays between jumps. Now, here's where chain medics pull ahead of traditional multi-target medics like Nightingale: range. While both have the same basic attack range, chain medics can effectively heal beyond their normal range, as long as there's a chain of units each close enough for the bounce to keep going. And with the right setup, the range can shift dynamically to cover a wide area. But there's a catch. Just like most medics in Arknights, chain medics will only start healing if there's an injured ally within their attack range. If all nearby units are at full health and your only injured operator is sitting just outside that range, they won't cast at all. So, despite the bounce potential, the chain medic just sits there doing nothing, which is a massive waste of what's supposed to be their big strength. However, once they do cast the initial heal, it can bounce through fully healed operators to reach someone who actually needs it. So, how does the game decide who gets healed and in what order? It goes like this. First, the primary target is the injured operator in range with the lowest HP percentage. Then, among the 8 surrounding tiles, the next lowest HP percentage ally is selected for the first bounce. If there's a tie, it goes to the operator who was deployed last. And yes, even operators at full HP can be chosen as bounce targets. The only restriction is, a unit can't get hit by a bounce twice in one chain. Let's look at how that plays out. In this example, Fang is outside of Monster's attack range and isn't getting any heals even though she's taking damage. That's because both Quora and Lapland are full HP, and since I deployed Lapland after Quora, the bounce prioritizes her, cutting the chain short. But if we swap Quora for Beagle, who's now the last deployed, the heal bounces through her and finally reaches Fang. Last thing to mention, chain medics can target or bounce through operators with healing restrictions, so that rules out classes like Reapers and Juggernauts. But Mon3tr has a little trick up her sleeve. Just like Kaltzit, she can still sneak a heal onto a downed Blaze Altar by casting the heal before she goes down and letting it land afterward. So here's the bottom line. Chain medics can technically cover a wide area and jump heals through your squad, but their heals get weaker with every bounce, and they absolutely need an injured ally in range to even get started. On paper, it sounds kinda clunky, but don't worry, we are about to see how Mon3tr's kit takes this shaky foundation and turns it into something genuinely powerful. Alright, time to dig into Mon3tr's talents, starting with the first one, and oh boy, it's a game changer. Talent 1 gives Mon3tr a summon that you can deploy on any ground tile within her attack range. It only costs 3 DP, doesn't take up a deploy slot, and it has 0 block. While its defense is on the lower side, it makes up for that with a massive HP pool of over 5000. Now, here's where things get really interesting. The summon loses 80 HP every second, and only Mon3tr can heal it. And that right there, that's the key to fixing the biggest flaw of chain medics. Since the summon is constantly taking damage and always within Mon3tr's range, she'll always have a healing target to kick off the bounce chain. No more standing around doing nothing because everyone is at full health. Because Mon3tr is the only one who can heal it, you don't have to worry about other medics accidentally stealing the heal and breaking the chain. Just be careful with regen effects like those of Bard operators. They can interfere with the setup and stop the whole thing from working properly. Now, the summon also has a -1 taunt level, which makes it less likely to get targeted by enemies. That's perfect, because it means it can stick around longer as a reliable springboard for healing. And even if it does die, the redeploy timer is just 15 seconds, so you can bring it back fast. So far, so good. But you might be thinking, wait, aren't we wasting one of the 3 bounces on this thing? Normally, yeah, and that's a big deal since each bounce loses 25% healing power. That would suck. But Hyperglyph was one step ahead. When Mon3tr heals her summon, there's no decay. You don't lose healing power at all. On top of that, the heal gets an extra bounce. So using the summon as a springboard has 0 downside. Oh, and we are not done yet. The summon also gives a 15% additive attack buff to all allies in the 8 surrounding tiles. You'll know it's working when you see a soft green mist swirling upward around your operators. Now, 15% isn't a lot, but it works well, especially on units with multiplicative attack boosts like Degen Breaker or Narantuya. Just check this clip. It speaks for itself. One more thing worth pointing out. All of Mon3tr's skills are offensive recovery skills. That means she needs to heal to gain SP. But since her summon is constantly bleeding HP, Mon3tr is always healing, which means she's always building up SP. Moreover, since her skills are offensive recovery, in stages with natural SP recovery debuffs, she's completely unaffected. In fact, she thrives in those environments. The bottom line is that this first talent is the cornerstone of Mon3tr's entire kit. It patches up the biggest weaknesses of both chain medics and offensive recovery skills, and throws in a solid attack buff on top with basically no trade-offs. And just brilliant. Hyperglyph really cooked with this one, and we are just getting started. Let's move on to talent 2. Mon3tr's second talent is pretty straightforward but seriously impactful. Every time Mon3tr heals a unit, they get plus 20 attack speed for 10 seconds. If they get healed again during that time, it doesn't stack, it just refreshes the timer. Moreover, even if you retreat Mon3tr, the buff still hangs around until it expires. Visually, you'll see a green crystal ring spinning around the buffed unit. That's your cue it's working. Mon3tr always gets the buff too, even if she doesn't actually receive heals. She won't get the visual effect, but rest assured the plus 20 attack speed is active. This passive self-buff boosts her healing speed and, even better, helps her recharge her offensive recovery skills faster. The whole kit is incredibly tightly woven, as you can see. Everything fits into everything else. Here's a clip showing you all pianos with and without Mon3tr's buffs in action. Now let's talk about what makes attack speed so busted. Unlike additive attack buffs, which can be hit or miss depending on the operator's skills, attack speed boosts pretty much any DPS operator, regardless of whether their skills have additive or multiplicative attack boosts. The only real exception is ammo-based skills. They are less affected by attack speed while active, but for everyone else, it's pure gold. That said, there is one small catch. Your DPS needs to actually receive healing from Mon3tr to keep the buff going. So a bit of positioning strategy is required if you want to fully milk the utility out of this talent. Easiest way to make it happen, place your DPS operator last, near her summon. That way, if everyone else is full HP, the first bounce is likely to land right on your DPS. Ideally, you want no more than 3 units clumped around the summon. That way, all of them can catch the heal and the buffs with no problem. Bottom line, this talent is already top tier support on its own. A near permanent group-wide attack speed buff that's massive in Arknights. But what pushes it into absurd territory is how hard it scales up with skill 2, which we'll break down in full detail later. Spoiler alert, it's cracked. Alright, let's kick off the skill breakdown with Mon3tr skill 1. This is a fully AFK skill that auto-activates as soon as it's ready, which makes it perfect for lazy people like me who just want to sit back and let things run. When it triggers, Mon3tr fires off a beefed up heal with a solid multiplier, and an extra bounce on top. Now, remember that her first talent already gives one extra free bounce when healing through the summon. Stack that with this skill and you are looking at a 5 target healing chain. That's some serious reach. Like her other skills, this one is an offensive recovery skill, which means it builds up SP whenever she's healing. And thanks to the summon constantly bleeding out, Mon3tr is healing non-stop. At Mastery 3, the SP cost drops to just 2. So yeah, expect to see Mon3tr spamming this skill. Now, how does it actually perform? It's good, but let's be real, it's not Eya Alter good. Eya doesn't need careful setup or positioning, and she can even heal elemental injury, while Mon3tr can't. For pure plug-and-play comfort, Eya takes the crown. That said, Mon3tr does have her own perks. Her range is potentially way larger, she can heal more targets in one go, and huge win, there's no warm-up time. That means she starts helping right away, which can save runs early into a stage. At the end of the day, this skill gives Mon3tr insane healing coverage. And since every heal spreads her second talent's attack speed buff, you're also juicing up DPS operators across the board. That's up to 4 allies getting the buff per cast, plus Mon3tr herself. Not bad at all. So yeah, more bounces, more heals, more buffs. That's pretty much the dream for a chain medic. The problem, skill 2 and skill 3 exist, and both of those crank things up way beyond what skill 1 can do. So unless you're deep into AFK strats, you'll probably want to save your resources for her other 2 skills, where the real magic happens. Now we're getting into the good stuff. Skill 2. This is where Mon3tr starts showing her true colors. When you pop this skill, Mon3tr shifts her healing priority to her summon. Every time she heals it, the summon fires off an extra bouncing heal of its own. More healing is always nice, but the real highlight here is the upgrade to her second talent. Instead of plus 20 attack speed, it jumps to a whopping plus 56. That's right, a 56 group-wide attack speed buff. And yes, Mon3tr herself gets that buff too, so her healing gets even faster. Because the summon is always the first link in the chain now, it also gets a bit easier to manage who gets the buff. You can predict the bounce pattern and position your team accordingly. In general though, the rule of thumb is the same as before. Cluster your DPS units near the summon, preferably no more than 3, and deploy them last, to make sure they get picked up by the bounce. Now, here's a sneaky bonus. During this skill, Mon3tr can heal the summon even when it's at full HP, so no risk of missing the healing window due to the faster heals. Let's talk healing output now. Between the summon's extra bounces and that massive attack speed buff, Mon3tr goes into overdrive. Her healing rivals even Alter skill 3 burst. Yeah, we are talking that level of power. But the attack speed buff is the real showstopper. Mon3tr leaves Ek in the dust. His plus 50 attack speed is single target, comes with a side of friendly fire and only lasts 20 seconds. Meanwhile, Mon3tr's group-wide plus 56 attack speed lasts twice as much, 40 seconds, 30 from the skill and another 10 from the lingering talent buff. And the weaker plus 20 version doesn't overwrite the stronger one after the skill ends. Honestly, the Ak disrespect is real. Mon3tr also starts with 12 SP and only needs 15 to activate the skill, so you can even heli drop her for a quick, massive DPS boost. Her uptime isn't bad either. It's an offensive recovery skill, so she needs to heal 15 times to charge it again, which takes a bit longer than 15 seconds, closer to 30, but if you do the math, you're looking at around 66% uptime on that plus 56 attack speed. That's 2/3 of a fight spent in turbo mode. To help you visualize this skill better, check out this clip of Mon3tr with and without Mon3tr. The difference is night and day, and their 30-second buff duration syncs nicely with most burst skills. And if you think Mon3tr is a good pairing, wait until you see Surtur. Her skill 3 has an additive attack boost, so she doesn't benefit much from further additive buffs like that of Warfarin, but attack speed? Now we are cooking. With the Mon3tr's help, Surtur pumps out more swings during her uptime, and thanks to the bonus healing, she hangs on longer too. Best way to play it, pop Mon3tr's skill right as Surtur starts to bleed heavily, so you keep her on the field longer. Of course, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Operators with healing restrictions, like Reapers and Juggernauts, can't be healed by Mon3tr, which means they also miss out on the attack speed buff. Tough luck if you're a fan of those classes. I guess Axe still got some job left. But yeah, that's skill 2 in a nutshell. Massive heals, a game-breaking attack speed buff, and crazy uptime. There's really not much more to say. It speaks for itself. As for whether you should invest in this skill, I mean, you've seen the numbers, you've seen the clips, you tell me. Alright, we have finally made it to skill 3. And I'm telling you right now, this one is insane. The moment you activate it, Mon3tr replaces her summon and drops down on the field herself. Her attack interval shortens, she gets a massive additive attack boost, and she starts dealing AoE true damage to up to 3 enemies in a 3x3 grid around her. That's right, pure true damage that ignores defense and dodge with wide coverage and zero conditions. But this isn't just a big nuke skill. While the skill is active, Mon3tr can block up to 3 enemies and gets a massive plus 5000 HP, bringing her to over 7000 total HP. That's almost double what you'd find on your average defender, making her an absolute wall, perfect for face tanking even bosses. Now, here's the wild part. Despite all this tanking and killing, Mon3tr is still healing. Every attack she lands heals herself, and because she's a chain medic, that healing bounces to nearby allies. Her self-heal doesn't count as a bounce, so there's no decay from that either. And just when you thought that was it, there's a cherry on top. If she takes lethal damage during the skill, she doesn't retreat. She just jumps back to her original tile with 1 HP. Otherwise, when the skill ends, she returns to her starting spot automatically. This God Mode skill costs just 15 SP and lasts 25 seconds. Even as an offensive recovery skill, that's super manageable. Plus, since she starts with 12 SP, you're only waiting about 10 seconds after deployment to go ham. Heli drop is totally viable. So, to sum it up, you press a button and get a true damage AoE tank with AoE healing, ridiculous survivability and a failsafe on death. It's straight up unreal. Honestly, the only downsides here are pretty minor. Mon3tr loses 80 HP per second during the skill, which is basically a joke, and unlike Ulpianos, you can't manually turn the skill off. That one is a bit more annoying, but still, it's a small price to pay for everything this skill brings to the table. Okay, let's unpack some of the quirks and details. First off, that switch with the summon. If the summon is on a tile that becomes undeployable after the switch, like placing another unit on it or using floating platforms on water, the skill simply won't activate. On the flip side, if the ranged tile Mon3tr was standing on becomes invalid during the skill, she gets force retreated at the end. Fun fact, you can use this swap to dodge incoming attacks aimed at her original tile, like Patriot's Lance. However, if Mon3tr gets devoured by an enemy while on the ground, she doesn't teleport back, she gets force retreated. So keep that in mind. Also, after you activate the skill, her summon immediately goes on its 15-second redeploy timer. But since the skill lasts 25 seconds, you can actually bring it back out while Mon3tr is still on the ground. That's awesome, because remember, everyone near the summon gets that 15% attack buff from Talent 1. Bonus trick, if you deploy the summon in a spot that's outside the range Mon3tr had before activating the skill, it will automatically get recalled when she returns to her tile, and can be instantly redeployed, with no cooldown. So yes, redeploying the summon during the skill is the optimal strategy. One important thing to note, when you activate skill 3, Mon3tr keeps her current HP. So if she was low going in and you don't heal fast enough, she can die, especially since she still loses 80 HP per second during the skill. Same thing after the skill ends, her HP carries over. Now let's talk comparisons. The obvious one is Vina, who also does AoE true damage, but honestly, Mon3tr just offers a better deal overall. Her AoE isn't tied to blocking enemies, her range is more forgiving, her skill cycles faster, she's way tankier, and she brings way more value off skill. That said, Vina does have 2 edges. She can hit 4 enemies instead of 3, and she dishes out more burst damage in a single rotation. So if you absolutely need to delete a high threat target in one go, Vina is still a strong pick. But for overall value, flexibility and ease of use, Mon3tr's got the lead. As for healing, once again Mon3tr goes toe-to-toe with HOYO-MiX skill 3. That alone should tell you how bonkers this skill is. To sum it up, skill 3 is the full package. It deals damage, heals allies, tanks bosses, and even has a built-in safety net. And with the rise of damage reduction and absurd enemy defenses, even in Mon3tr's own event, true damage is only going to get more important. I honestly can't think of any reason not to master 3, this masterpiece of a skill. Alright. Time to wrap things up. Mon3tr is one of those operators where every single part of her kit just clicks. Her whole kit is tightly designed, everything connects, everything has a purpose. She patches up the usual weaknesses of chain medics and offensive recovery skills while also bringing an absurd amount of value. She's got a ton of strengths, long-range AoE healing with short attack interval, amazing support potential, thanks to not just a group attack buff, but also that rare and powerful group attack speed buff. She makes your DPS units go absolutely wild, and when you hit skill 3, she stops being the support and becomes the carry. She dishes out unconditional AoE true damage, tanks like a defender with a 7000 HP pool, and even gets a cheat death mechanic. It's the full package: damage, healing, tankiness and support, all in one skill. Thanks to her low SP costs, she also pairs super well with SP batteries like Shu or Ptilopsis, and synergizes beautifully with SP relics in integrated strategy. Of course, she's not flawless. Because of her archetype, Mon3tr is easy to use, but harder to really master. You need to plan your deployment order in advance if you want her heals and buffs to land where you want them. That means she's not as plug and play as someone like HOYO-MiX, who you can just throw on the field and forget about. Also worth mentioning, while she absolutely shreds in IS-5, IS-6 introduces a mechanic where operators with talismans slapped on them can't activate their skills until the talisman is destroyed. And that's kind of a pain when you're relying on her skill 3. It's nothing you can't work around, but yeah, it's annoying. Another thing, when you're using her as a support with skill 2, she gives a juicy attack speed buff, sure, but she doesn't bring any crowd control to the table. In high-end content, that can be a deal breaker. So in those cases, someone like Suzerain might still take the lead. Though let's be real, Mon3tr's kit is already stacked enough that asking for even more would just be greedy. And hey, the devs really showed their love for our cat daughter with a couple of neat Easter eggs. Mon3tr Summon has 5433 HP, the same amount she had back when she was just Calcit's little companion. And speaking of Calcit, she's famously selfish with her heals, always prioritizing herself and Mon3tr over everyone else. Turns out, even in operator form, Mon3tr gets special treatment. Calcit might let the whole squad die, but she'll never let her pet get hurt. It might be a bug since it only works with an unmodded Calcit, but honestly, I choose to believe it's love. From a meta angle, the devs clearly had a hard time figuring out what to do with medics after HOYO-MiX. That unit had everything: low DP, huge range, top tier AFK healing, global range burst healing, even elemental damage recovery. She was so stacked, it felt like the healer design space was done for. But Mon3tr broke the mold. She brings tools you'd expect from completely different classes. Powerful AoE buffs, frontline tanking, AoE true damage, stuff that makes her feel like a true next-gen healer. So, should you pull for her? If you care about meta, absolutely yes. She's good across the board, great in IS, CC, even daily content. Whether you're new or a veteran, Mon3tr has something to offer. And even if you don't care about meta, the combo of her adorable design and emotional story arc is reason enough for many to pull. But, and this is a big but, she's a standard operator. That means you likely get more chances to pick her up later, maybe even buy her with the paid selector during the 6.5 anniversary. And right after her banner, we are getting the 6th anniversary limited banner featuring Exusier Alter, who's cracked beyond belief. Plus, we've got Tragodia coming up shortly after that. Another busted unit. So yeah, your pooling resources are gonna be hurting in the next few months. My advice, always prioritize limited operators unless you've got a strong reason to do otherwise. Alright, that's all I've got. Hope you found the review helpful. As always, thanks for watching and I'll catch you in the next one.